The anemia, it can cause anemia and jaundice, and it is called erythroblastosis fetalis. This can be avoided by administering the anti-RH antibodies to the mother immediately after the delivery of the first child. Next is coagulation of blood. Okay. When an injury is caused to a blood vessel, bleeding starts, which is stopped by a process called blood clotting or coagulation. Therefore, blood clotting is a mechanism to prevent excessive loss of blood from the body. Here it is the flow chart. So, injured tissue releases thromboplastin, and with the help of calcium proteins and blood platelets side by side disintegrate and release platelet factor 3, and it also with the help of calcium proteins activate prothrombinase, which inactivates heparin and catalyzes prothrombin to thrombin, which further catalyzes fibrinogen into fibrin, okay, which is a clot. Basically, it forms a mesh like structure, okay. This is the process of blood clotting. I hope you got it right. Next is lymph or tissue fluid. It is a mobile connective tissue comprising lymph plasma and lymph corpuscles. Corpuscles. It is similar to but has fewer blood proteins, less calcium and phosphorus, and high glucose concentration. Okay. Lymph plasma is similar to that of but has, yeah. Lymph corpuscles are floating amoeboid cells. Let's talk about the corpuscles. These are amoeboid cells which usually floats. The leukocytes, which are mostly lymphocytes, erythrocytes, and platelets, are absent in lymph. So here, erythrocytes and platelets are absent, and leukocytes are present. Amoeboid cells are leukocytes. Okay, and it is an important carrier for nutrients and hormones, etc. What lymph? Important carrier for nutrients, hormones. Fats are absorbed through lymph in the lacteals present in the intestinal villi. Lymph acts as a middleman which transports food, materials, hormones, etc. to the body cells and brings CO2 and other metabolic waste from the body cells to blood, and finally pours the same into the venous system. It destroys the invading microorganisms and foreign particles in the lymph nodes. Okay, then we have circulatory pathways. It is into open and closed. Okay, blood when open, blood pumped by the heart passes through large vessels into open spaces or body cavities called sinuses. Here, blood pumped by heart passes through large vessels into open spaces or body cavities called sinuses. Here, blood pumped by heart is always circulated through a closed network of blood vessels. It is found in annelids and chordates. Okay, it is found in arthropods and mollusks. Evolutionary changes in Harawati braids. Two-chambered heart and atrium with one ventricle, single circulation found in fishes. Two-chambered, three-chambered, four-chambered, and atrium with one ventricle in fishes. Then you have two atria and one ventricle. Amphibians and reptiles. Here two atria and two ventricle. Crocodiles, blood, birds and mammals. Incomplete double circulation. Here it's full double circulation. And we have human circulatory system. Consists of it also called blood vascular system, consists of a muscular chambered heart, blood vessels and blood. Okay. Blood vessels. Three types of blood vessels are artery, veins and capillaries. Okay. Arteries are elastic vessels that transport blood away from the heart toward the body. Pulmonary artery is the only artery which carries deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood. Veins transport blood to the heart. Pulmonary vein is exceptional, conveys oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium of the heart. Veins contains valve which prevent the backflow of blood. Arteries and veins are connected by capillaries in the tissue. We have heart. Okay. It is four chambered, enclosed in the pericardium. In between the two layers of pericardium, a pericardial cavity is present filled with pericardial fluid. Heart has right and left atria divided by an interatrial or intra-auricular septum, and right and left ventricle separated by an intraventricular septum. The right atrium receives two large veins, superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. The superior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from the head and upper region of the body. The inferior brings deoxygenated blood from the lower region of the body. The left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs via pulmonary veins. Left ventricle is thicker than the right ventricle. Thicker than right because it has to push blood to all body parts at a much great pressure. We have bicuspid or the mitral valve, which separate the left atrium and the left ventricle. The valve forms the three cups separating the right auricle and the right ventricle is the tricuspid. Then we have chordae tendineae. These are the special fibrous cords attached to the flaps of. These are attached to the flaps of the bicuspid and tricuspid valves. Two other ends with the papillary vessels. Semilunar valves are the present where arteries leave the heart. The valves of the heart maintain unidirectional flow of blood and prevents regurgitation in the opposite direction. The heart is made up of cardiac muscle, a specialized cardiac muscular later called the nodal tissue. Also present in the heart, a patch of this tissue is present in the right atrium near the opening of the superior vena cava called the sinoatrial node or pacemaker. Another mass of this tissue is seen in the right atrium called the AV and atrioventricular node, a bundle of nodal fibers. AV bundle continues from the AVN, which passes through the atrioventricular septa to emerge on the top and immediately divides into a right and left bundle. These branches give rise to minute fibers throughout the ventricular musculature of the respective sides and are called Purkinje fibers. These fibers, along with right and left bundles, are known as bundle of His. A nodal musculature has the ability to generate action potentials without any external stimuli. The SN can generate the maximum number of action potential, that is 70 to 75 per minute, and is responsible for initiating and maintaining the rhythmic contractile activity of the heart. Therefore, it is called the pacemaker of the heart. Anteroventricular node, on the other hand, is called the pace setter. Pace setter. As it rapidly transmits the excitatory impulses received by a signal to all parts of the ventricles via a bundle of His. And we have cardiac cycle. The sequential events in the heart, which are cyclically repeated, constitute cardiac cycle. It consists of systole and diastole of both the artery and ventricles. The contraction phase is called the systole. Systole is the contraction phase, and diastole is the relaxation phase. Join successive stages of cardiac cycle are as follows: joint diastole, right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium. First, we have joint diastole. Okay, then it's atrial systole, then ventricular systole, then ventricular diastole. All the four chambers of heart, all four chambers are in relaxed state. Okay, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves, which are pressure in ventricles falls on the blood from the pulmonary vein, and the vena cava flows into the left and the right ventricle. Okay, respectively, but there is no flow of blood from the ventricles to the aorta, and pulmonary and disseminal valves are closed at this stage. Then we have atrial systole. The ASEAN generates an action potential which stimulates both the artery to undergo a contraction. Undergo a contraction. Atrial systole increases the blood flow into the ventricles by 30. Then we have ventricular systole. The action is conducted to the ventricular systole by the AV, where the bundle of His transmits this through entire ventricular musculature. This causes the ventricular muscle to contract. Okay, fuck. This is the volume of blood pumped by each ventricle per minute is the cardiac output. Uh, volume of blood pumped. by each ventricle per minute. It is determined by multiplying the heart rate with the volume of blood ejected by each ventricle during each beat, which is called the stroke volume. ECG. We have ECG. ECG is graphic record of the electric current produced by excitation of the cardiac muscle. The instrument used to record the changes is an electrograph. Electrocardiograph is the instrument. A normal electrocardiogram is composed of P wave, QRS wave, like this. Okay, this is P, this is Q, this is R, this is S, this is T. P wave indicates the depolarization of the atrial contraction. Atrial contraction, which we can say. It is caused by the activation of SA node. The QRS begins after a fraction of second of the P wave. It begins as a small downward and continues as a large upright R. It represents ventricular depolarization or ventricular contraction. The T wave is dome shaped, which indicates ventricular repolarization. Okay, and the T wave is which indicates the ventricular repolarization or relaxation. End of T wave marks the end of the systole and marks the end of systole. By counting the number of QRS complex in a given period, we can determine the heart rate of an individual. QRS complexes give the heart rate of an individual. Any deviation from the normal shape of ECG indicates any disease or abnormality in a person. तू क्या जाने मेरे Next, we have double circulation. It is a passage of the same blood twice in the heart through the separate pathways for completing one cycle. It consists of pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. Systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation first we have. It is a movement of blood from the heart to lungs and back to the heart again. Deoxygenated blood is pumped out of the right ventricle into the pulmonary trunk, into the pulmonary arteries, and into the lungs via pulmonary veins. Oxygenated blood is then drained into the left atrium. And in the systemic circulation, the flow of oxygenated blood from the left ventricle to all parts of the body and deoxygenated blood from the various parts of the body pass to the right atrium is called systemic circulation. A special vascular connection exists between the digestive tract and liver called the hepatic portal system. A special coronary system of blood vessels is present in our body. A circulation of blood and to form the cardiac musculature called the coronary circulation. Coronary circulation. It is for the circulation of blood to and from the cardiac musculature. To and from the cardiac musculature. Blood circulation to and from cardiac musculature. Regulation of cardiac activity. Normal activities of the heart are auto-regulated by specialized muscle, which are nodal tissue. Hence, the heart is called the myogenic. A special neurocenter in the medulla oblongata can moderate the cardiac function to autonomic nervous system. Neural signals through the sympathetic nerves can increase the rate of heartbeat, the strength of the ventricular contraction, and thereby the cardiac output from the sympathetic nerves. Okay. The strength of the ventricular contraction. Yeah. On the other hand, parasympathetic neural signals decrease the rate of heartbeat. Parasympathetic signals decrease heartbeat. Sympathetic can increase speed of conduction of action potential and thereby the cardiac output. Adrenal medullary hormones can also increase the adrenal medullary hormones can increase the cardiac output. Cardiac output.